By convention, every Coalbox application will have two folders for your modules, modules and modules_app. Modules is used by a command box to place the tracked modules. Normally, you would not commit these modules to source control, just let command box take care of this folder for you. Modules app is used for custom non-tracked modules. Basically, this folder is for modules you and your team create and maintain yourselves. You can store them in ForgeBox, but it's not required. If you've got, say, a Git repo somewhere, you can store your modules in there just fine. You can also store your modules in other custom locations if you want, but you'll have to tell Coalbox where to look for them. To do that, you go into your Coalbox config file, and you look for the setting modules external location. And that's just a path pointing to some other folder, or an array of paths rather, pointing to other folders where you can store your modules. I don't typically do that with applications. I generally leave modules and modules apps as is, and the applications work just fine in that situation. You might have something custom you have to deal with, maybe a larger application of some sort. Maybe you've got things spread out across different servers or what have you. You can go in here to the setting and add those other paths as needed. When you do that, of course, remember to reinitialize your application so that the change in your Coalbox config file takes effect. Now let's look at the layout and some basic conventions when dealing with modules. First, we'll run a command to create a new basic module for us to check out. Coalbox create module, and I'll call this one my admin tools. Let that run, and you can see command box created a handful of things for us. Let's check out what those are. Notice that they all live in the modules app folder in a subfolder under there called my admin tools. Modules apps, my admin tools, and here we go. I've got a config folder similar to the config folder in our host application. Handlers, models, and views, just like the folders handlers, models, and views that we have in our host application as well. The config folder is a little bit different than the one we have up here. Our main config folder for the host app has several config files in it: Cachebox, Coalbox, Router, Wirebox, and your application CFC, of course. The config folder in your module has just a Router CFC file in it, because all of the application config style things are done either by the host application itself or by this file right here, module config. That's sort of your modules config CFC file. I'll open that up, and you'll see some similar things in here to both your application CFC file and the Coalbox config file up here. I'll open Coalbox CFC. You can see we've got a configure method in here with a Coalbox struct and a bunch of different properties in it that tell our application how it should behave when it runs. And in my module config file, I've got some application settings in here for the module, and I've also got a configure method in it with some settings that are defaults right now, but these are all settings that tell us how this module should run. So similar concept here in the module as we have for configuring our host application as well. I've got a handlers folder with a home CFC handler in it, and you can see it looks just like the handlers in our host application. Models folder works the same way. It's currently empty because we don't have any data model hooked up to this module just yet. And our views folder has views/home, and there's an index view inside there with just some stock HTML for now, real similar to the views that get created when we made our main application, our host application rather, and here is a view file from the host application. It's got a little bit more stuff in it, but it's the same idea. This is a view with mostly HTML in it, just like this is a view with, in this case, entirely HTML in it. When I fleshed this view out, I'd probably, of course, put some CF output tags in here and have maybe a little bit of logic for toggling different parts of the UI on and off, just like you would any other view in the host application. Modules, whether they're in the modules app folder or in the modules folder, both work just like real Coalbox applications because they are real Coalbox applications. And that's really all you're going to have in here. You'll have your folder that names the module, config, and you'll have your handlers, models, and views folders. You'll have this module config CFC that configures how that module should work. And that's about it. If you're using command box to manage your app, and you really should be, you may also have a box.json file in the module. This would work the same way that the box.json file works for your host application. It will list any dependencies your module has and other usual stuff you'd expect to find in a box.json file for any other application. You can build links that go from your host application into a module and vice versa. And you can build links that go from any module into any other module too. Here I've got the messages list page that we've been looking at in our application, and it's pretty much the same code that we've seen before. Here, I'll refresh the browser so you know that it's running how we expect it to run. I've got that add new message link that we've seen previously. You click it, it goes to the page where you can add a new message into the application. I've added a new link next to that that says go to admin tools. And when I click this, it goes into, notice the URL, myadmintools/home/index. So the URL doesn't have two parts in it like we do with the main host application, messages and list. It's got three parts in it: the name of my module, and then the event and action inside that module that's actually firing. Both links obviously work. I can go into the details page here and go into the module. There's a slight difference in how you create those two links. Here's the original build link function for going from our list page to the messages detail page. And here's the same code for going into a module. I simply have the module name, a colon, and then the name of the event inside that module that I want to link to. And that's it. We're using the same event.buildLink method in both cases. And that's it. You have the same event.buildLink method in both cases. The only change is this little bit here where you have the module name and a colon in front of it. I'm going to save that and reload it so you can see that it works. Go in there and it's fine. You can also use a period here so that you have the same syntax between the module name and the event as you do between home and index, just like in your other links in the application. Save that and reload it. And you can see that this will work as well. I personally like to go with having the colon in front here, just so there's a little bit more of a visual separation between the module name and the events that are running, but that's just my personal preference. And that same convention can be used if you need, say, a view to link from another module or to run an event that's in the host app handler. You can actually link handlers that are in a module into other handlers in other modules and so on. The only difference is you would use all three parts to set an event or render a view or whatever, instead of saying, set event, passing it home.index or user.detail. You would pass it the module name .user.detail or module name .message.list or whatever the particular event or view is that you're trying to accomplish. The same syntax that you use here for event.buildLink, you would use for those other event situations when linking from one module to another. Same way. There are a couple of other methods that help when dealing with modules in your applications. We'd like to go over those. Get current module and get module root. Get current module does exactly what it sounds like. It returns the name of the module you're currently executing an event from within. Basically, this would return myadmintools, or it would return the name of whatever other module you have in your application. That can be really useful when you have a large application with lots of different modules and things happening in a more dynamic context in your app. Get module root returns the web accessible root of the module's root directory. So in our case, this would return /myadmintools for the myadmintools module we just discussed. And you'd use them basically in situations such as this. Say you've got, in this case, a layout file, and you want to link from your layout that might live in your host application into a specific module root or vice versa. You can simply say event.getModuleRoot and it will find the root of whatever module you're currently running in. And this code here will get replaced with myadmintools or whatever the name of your current module is that you happen to be running. So as you can see, modules work exactly like all the other ColdBox application code we've been looking at throughout this video series. The extreme power and flexibility with modules has made them an incredibly popular feature in the ColdBox community. You can learn more about modules at the official documentation on coldbox.ortusbooks.com in the HMVC modules section.